Daquan, crossover, quick release. Oh, baby, and the foul. Woo. Offensive rebound for Watson.
32 seconds. Shot clock differential about 14 seconds. 3-point lead.
Who run shit like me? Top 5 basically. I still play for keeps. Ain't no fantasy. Hey.
A wise man once said, soon come. Ladies, gentlemen, and ladies, welcome to the Divine Providence podcast. It's been a rough couple days in Friartown. Bryce Hopkins, as we all know, commits to St. John's, gives a fat middle finger to the PC fan base. All of a sudden, we're having flashbacks to 2023. Feels like a little deja vu. We've been here before. And just 24 hours later, emergency podcast time. We have officially arrived to soon come season. The Friars landed not one, but 2 transfers within a matter of seemingly an hour. Cole Hargrove from Drexel and Daquan Davis, a name that I'm sure most of us are familiar with at this point, from Florida State. Leb, welcome to soon come season. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling good. And, I felt that the people needed to hear Mac do the entrance there because, it has been a couple rough days. You feel betrayed once again, but, from the ashes, Kim English has risen and got us 2 really good pieces. So really excited about that. This is going to be a very positive show. We might touch on Bryce like a little bit. I think kind of obligated to do that, but no, super excited about the direction of the portal so far. Eduardo was not with us today, but he will be back. He has not been fired despite poor performance. So yeah, we're fired up. Everything's good over here. So we're going to get into it, and we're also going to talk about some more targets that we have. So without further ado, what do you think? Let's start with first. We got a commitment from Cole Hargrove. So that was the first bomb. That was in the early window around 10 a.m. We got that one. How do we feel about that one?
Listen, we're going to keep it positive. You told me there's a 6'8" forward who can rebound and wants to be a Friar and probably isn't going to milk us for money. I'll take him. Then you look to the highlights. Naturally, we did the same thing last year. You look to the highlights, you get excited. But then I did a little more research. I like going to Bart Torvik to get a read on the type of player we're getting. This is definitely not the stretch 4 that I think we're expecting the Friars to land. But Hargrove's a rising senior, I believe. Can seemingly score pretty well around the rim and protects the rim. He's a traditional big man. I mentioned Bart Torvik. Bart Torvik gives Cole Hargrove an offensive rating of 125.7, which is really good.
Interesting.
Just an efficient guy. Like, I think it's a good complementary piece to Oswin, who isn't the best scorer by any means, is a great defender, but can give you some scoring at that position, likely off the bench.
Yeah, and it looks like Hargrove probably will play that role, like backing up Oswin, playing mostly the 5. I think he can be a 4 if you go with if you go really big, and I guess depending on who you're playing, right, matchup wise. But he is more of a 5, but he is an athletic freak, and he's going to block a lot of shots. He's going to get a ton of rebounds. That's really the difference between what we had last year, versus this year. So, like, for example, someone mentioned that our center line is 6'8" and 6'9", respectively, right? And sure, that is true. But, last year was 6'9", 7 feet, and 7'1", right? And the center position was an absolute disaster past Oswin last year. So, like, it couldn't get any worse than it did last year after Oswin. Of course, Oswin was great. So I really think that this guy is like, some people, kind of use the term, and I love this, the anti-creased. kind of a play on words there, right? And I really, not to dog on Crease, to wish him well at South Carolina, but like this kid is athletic. He moves his feet very well. He'll catch a lob. He'll block some shots. He'll rebound. He's not afraid of contact, being physical. Staying in the gym, being in the gym. I think he's really a breath of fresh air for what we've seen. A lot of people have compared him to Ed Croswell. We've seen a lot of Ed Croswell comparisons. It's like, I said this to one of my friends. It's like if Ed Croswell discovered CrossFit and creatine. This kid, he's like, you look at him and he's built great and he's got great shoulders and he's like an athletic freak, but like all around his whole body, not just, one spot. Not like he's like muscular on his shoulders or chest, like ever. He's in great shape. So definitely excited, about that one, not to ramble. And a lot of people will kind of like poo-poo it maybe because it's not a big name, right? He's a Drexel kid, 9 points per game. He's not going to be a superstar here, but he's definitely going to contribute to hopefully a winning team.
Yeah, I also saw a handful of the Croswell comparisons, and you mentioned the height. Like, just to give some context, and the Croswell comparison is a good one because when Nate Watson and Ed Croswell were kind of 1 and 2, Watson's 6'10",
Mhm.
Croswell 6'8". So like height does not dictate like in every case, outcome.
Sure.
I know it was easy to get excited because you had, 2 7-footers coming in last year, but realistically, like, not to bash anyone, but if you're 7 feet tall and you are naturally a dog, like, no ifs, ands, or buts, you're going to be playing at a Kansas or a North Carolina. You know what I mean? Like, you
Correct.
kind of have.
Totally.
I had a tweet, a couple weeks ago. Like, we don't necessarily have our pick of the litter. It's
Right.
you don't just see a 7-footer and say, hey, he's going to be a stud because he's 7 feet. Because if he was a stud and 7 feet, he would be playing, in the Big 12, or he'd be a Duke.
Yeah. Every big man that you get is not going to be Joel Embiid. Like, I get totally get what you're saying.
But like I said, I think this gives a good offensive spark off the bench, specifically down low. I mentioned the Bart Torvik offensive rating, which it's really just offensive efficiency. So you're going to see a lot of big men kind of with higher numbers in this rating. But some names next to him nationally: Zuby Ejiofor, Bennett Starts, Braden Huff, Rafael Castro. Funnily enough, had almost the same offensive rating as this kid at George Washington. Graham Ike, it's just an efficient low post guy. And obviously, you mentioned he's an athletic freak. We like our big men in shape around here, and
We do.
I think Hargrove fits that mold.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's really it. I mean, I think with big men, right? Every big man looks raw and underdeveloped until they're just not. And I think with Hargrove, you saw he took a massive leap forward from his sophomore year to junior year. He spent 2 years at Drexel, pretty much not getting much run at all, and really not contributing all that much positively. And then to being, Drexel's basically go-to big man. I'm not actually 100% sure on the Drexel situation. Didn't watch one Drexel game, obviously, but just looking at the stats, right, based on minutes played, points per game, rebounds. Obviously, he was probably their best big man, if not, their second best. So, also, just quick side note, real quick, on the air while we're recording right now, Alan Breed has committed to NC State, so he's going to follow.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's going to follow Will Wade to NC State. So you got, they're running it back there. Will Wade, Amir Khan, and Alan Breed, the big three. So good for Alan. Happy for him. Forever a Friar. So hope it works out.
I don't want to diss Eduardo, but I might have a new ACC team to root for with Alan Breed over there.
Definitely, absolutely. Alan Breed. I like Will Wade. I think he's kind of a straight shooter. And And Amir Khan. I mean, he's aura Khan. I mean, you can't knock the aura. So, um, fuck, I need to grow up. Anyways,
I saw a thing. I don't know if it was from like a fake account. I didn't look deeply enough to actually see, but someone was like, "Oh, the Memphis Grizzlies have reached out to Amir Khan to bring him on in some sort of capacity, like after graduation or something."
That's
and I just
ridiculous.
didn't. It was probably like a fake report or something, but hey, he's a businessman now.
Yeah, hey, get your money, get your
Mhm.
bag. If you can get NIL money, if you can leverage being, a chubby fat kid, or not, I'm sorry, chubby funny kid, that just lip syncs rap songs, then do that, like, 100%. So, good for Alan Breed, though. Happy for him. Um, Anything else about Hargrove before we move on to Davis?
Nothing necessarily on Hargrove. I think a lot of the transfers we're going to start seeing in the next couple weeks or months or whatever the timeline is for the staff. Um, I think a lot of the guys we're going to see are going to be big men. Maybe not necessarily this archetype of big man, maybe closer to stretch four. But when you lose Delorier, Asandiko, Bonk, Hopkins, pretty much every guy that went in the portal this cycle so far from Providence has been a 4 or a 5. So I think we're going to see a lot of overlap at that position.
Definitely agree. So then moving on, shortly after Hargrove committed, we did get a commitment from um, Daquan or Daquan, not 100% sure on the pronunciation. Can't really say I've ever heard his first name spoken out loud. Just read, obviously, when he committed here. But Daquan Davis is a Friar again. So for those that don't know, Mr. Davis did commit here back in 2023, and then or no, last year, a year ago, 2024.
I
Yeah,
believe he was the first strictly English recruit that committed.
you're right. Yeah, he committed. Yeah, he committed. He committed in 2023 for his first year, which was the following year. So last year was his freshman year. So he was a freshman, and he averaged 9 points per game in the ACC. Absolutely nothing to sneeze at. I mean, I think that people are automatically assuming that he's not going to start, and I've been told from a multitude of people that he more or less is okay with more of like a 6-man or kind of a backup role. I think that that's probably the goal, depending on how the portal shakes out. But if he is starting and the portal goes our way for the rest of the lineup, I'm not as down on that as a lot of other people. Again, it all really comes down to who you have around him, especially as a point guard. But I mean, he's definitely athletic. He can score, and he can do a lot of things on the basketball court. Like I said, I mean, ACC 9 points per game as a freshman. I'll take that all day. How do you feel about Daquan Davis here?
I didn't know how to feel at first. Obviously, the original tweet said he was 6'1", and I was like, oh shit, 6'1" point guard. Here we go. But I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, the kid averaged 9 points as a freshman in the ACC. Not sure if you remember, we had a kid transfer from the ACC last year, and he was pretty fucking good.
Yep.
But he's young. You'd like to argue he should have been a Friar last year. I know there's some concerns on he didn't choose PC the first time around. I honestly don't give a shit about that because when his name went in the portal, I'm sure every coach that recruited him in 2023, I'm sure every one of those coaches reached out to him. He was a top 100 kid. Like, I would rather school do the groundwork of like go through the growing pains of the first year, and then all right, come back to where you committed originally. I don't know. I have mixed emotions about it. It's a long-term play. The kid's a rising sophomore, so I'm optimistic about it. However, I would definitely at
Yeah,
least this year like to see some sort of a senior point guard kind of at least take the reins at the start of the season.
yeah, definitely. Like I think that this plan for him is more of a 2-year plan. Like, hey, we're gonna try to we're gonna get you as many minutes as possible. If we play, if PC plays a 3-guard set and he's the first guard off the bench, he's gonna get a ton of opportunity to
Mhm.
you know play different positions and whether it's the 1, quote unquote 2 or 3. Again, obviously, relatively positionless basketball, but he'll have a lot of opportunity, especially like the kind of style. If we do want to pick up the pace a little bit, last year I felt like Kim wanted to run and wanted to play fast, but we didn't really have the guys to do that, which partly is his own fault, partly is kind of just dealing with what he was dealt. You know, um, so he's going to get a lot of minutes. What capacity it's in, what his official role is, honestly, probably isn't that important. But year 2, Daquan Davis, I think that's a perfect, like, you don't have to go in the portal and spend a ton of money on a point guard now for the following year, which point guards are like, I mean, the market for point guards and centers is insane. There's a million shooting guards and a million wings in the portal. There's not a million point guards and centers. So if you can lock up a point guard for 2 years, I'm totally happy with that. Um, and yeah, I mean, Bensley Joseph, like his numbers, right, didn't pop out at you when he came over here. And I think that we weren't most excited about Bensley out of all the transfers, but he ended up being the best one and actually wasn't even close. So, you really got to see kind of what shakes out. But like I said, there'll be plenty of opportunity for him to play, not only this year, but the following year as well. And then obviously, his senior year, then if he all goes well, he'll probably portal again and try to get, more money. So,
I will say, hand up, the Bensley comparison was very face value. That was a dog shit comparison on my part. I just wanted to give some sort of context. But like, Bensley to Daquan Davis, as far as coming in as transfers, I feel like you're comparing
of course.
apples to toasters.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, Daquan coming in, he's going to be a sophomore. Like, this is more of a long-term play, whereas Bensley, I think, was brought in to be like a impact now type of guy because obviously he only had 1 year of eligibility left. I just want to preface, I don't think the expectation for Daquan Davis as, a 19-year-old should be do exactly what Bensley Joseph did last year.
For sure. Totally agree. Nonetheless, I think that those are 2, really good pieces to start with. And I think that we all have to remember, right, this team on paper had officially 8 spots to fill coming into the portal. Now we have 6 spots to fill. Obviously, those 6 spots aren't going to be filled with all guys that will see the floor. You'll probably have maybe 2 like, projects or like walk-ons, whatever. But you have to fill out a full roster. And to do that, you still have to go fill 6 spots. So when you get a guy that might come off the bench, right, your first instinct can't be like, oh, this is what we're working with. This is what we have. That's just stupid. You have spots to fill. It's like not everyone on the team is going to be a superstar. I think that the ceiling for Hargrove is not that high, but I think the ceiling for Davis is very high. So, like, I mean, you got to be happy with at least the start. And again, not everyone's going to be a 35-minute per game guy.
Yeah, you mentioned the spots open. I want to know who's gonna fill this Luke Fonts role. I feel like we got to find a Luke Fonts replacement ASAP, like a vibes guy.
Yeah, we need a balding white vibes guy. I mean, I got like
I'm
was
right
gonna
here.
say,
Tim. I got 4 years eligibility. If you're listening to this,
I got a full contact list of dudes with 4 years of eligibility that fit that, including yourself, including probably a bunch of other guys that we're in group chats with. So that's definitely a role we do need filled. That's easier
I'm a vibes
to
guy.
fill though.
I'm a vibes guy. Kim, listen, if you need vibes, I'll bring the vibes. Because it was a seamless transition. You had Drew Fonts, and then as Drew Fonts left, Luke Fonts was just getting his foot in the door. Listen, I'm telling you, Kim, I got 4 years, man. I got 4 good years to give you.
4 good years. No days off. Gym rat.
Real scrappy kid.
Good IQ, basketball IQ.
Mhm.
But so moving on. So the other player that this is not confirmed, but there's been a lot of chatter about this kid is Stefan Vox. So for those that don't know about Vox, he is an Estonian national, and he is like 19 or 18, maybe. Actually, he could even be a
I
little
believe
young,
19.
but okay. He is. I think he is playing under 20 ball. If that's correct, but nonetheless, he is one of the best prospects in Europe. Now, there is a guy on. He's a reporter, Armin Jovic, and he's a very reliable Euro basketball reporter, right? And on the Discord, he in so many words said that PC has got a commitment from Vox. Now, we don't know if that's true. I've heard that it's done. It's just we're just waiting for it to be announced. Waiting for a season to be over with, which is over in I think a week and a half or so. This kid's really intriguing because he has 4 years of eligibility. He's a good shooter. He's a good passer. I think the defense is probably a question mark just based on the style of play that they play over there. But could be a really, really good player because if you watch his highlight tape, he is very good. He's got a lot of skill. And, I don't want to say too much because I don't know if he's coming here, so I don't want to get everyone excited. But there's definitely a lot to be excited about there. Have you done any little Vox? Have you done any Vox research yet? Are you vaccinated yet?
No, I haven't been too vaccinated. I don't want to get my hopes up because, like you said, I'm not in the Discord, but I've seen plenty of things, and I believe the guy he basically described PC to a T without actually saying the name. It was like stadium holds or arena holds 12,000 people. It's a basketball first school, no football program. Yeah, basically was saying PC. But yeah, I mean, he can shoot for sure. I saw his numbers. He can shoot. Any type of guy that's playing pro ball currently, again, apples to key of souls, but you see guys play pro for a couple years in Europe, and then all of a sudden they're an NBA draft prospect. And they can just pick it up like that. I feel like that type of if you can have that experience, it translates over well pretty quickly. And like you mentioned, he has 4 years of eligibility. I'm sure wherever he ends up, he won't be using all 4 because I believe the goal is the NBA. But again, that's another thing that you can assume PC is in on if the goal is the NBA because the head coach literally played in the NBA.
Right. Good point. Yeah, if that's his goal. Yeah, but I will say, I think this kid does probably want to play in Europe. I mean, depending on how good he ends up being, then he could play in the NBA. I do have the message. I think that I'm just gonna read it if anyone wants to hear it. So this is Arman Jovic, PDT Scouting. He said, Vox, the school of choice has been made. His camp decided, should become official within the next week or two. Vox has not yet visited the university in person, but he has been introduced to the university via Zoom. In terms of playing style, the school is more of a run and gun style, high octane offense. I don't really agree with that part 100%, but I think that Kim does want to play that. But he has a few conditions of his own. So back to Armin. He's going to attend Adidas Euro Camp in late May and early June. And second, to play in the Eurobasket, parentheses, best of the best, lots of NBA players, end parentheses, at the end of the summer, if he makes it to the Estonian national team. So he's trying to make the Estonian national team. The school in question is more than okay with this. He picked a school with a lower dollar offer, but chose a place where he believes he can play, where the coach talked normally, where there was no gloating over their past players or personal success. Talked about how they can help the kid. The school has good conditions. Capacity of 14,000 seats. Now, this is where, like, maybe he's not talking about PC because the AMP, we know, like, really doesn't have a 14,000. It's not really a 14,000 seat arena. But when you look up on Google AMP capacity, the Google AI, like, automatic thing says 14,000 even. So if you're in Europe and you've never been and you look up AMP, capacity, it's going to say 14,000. So completely matches that. Then it says, he goes on to say, everything there is top notch. Vox would also like to make it to the NBA, but realistically thinks that after university, Europe will be his home. So he'd like to play in the NBA, but not, he's okay with Europe. And then it said, he said, you guys can figure it out off that. 21 people put the friar emoji, and someone replied, so he's a friar. And then this guy replied, you're welcome. So, I mean, like, to me, that's pretty clear. But, you never know. You never know.
For sure. But, I mean, yeah, listen, man, if he can shoot it and he's willing to play in a run and gun, I kind of get what you're saying as far as you don't necessarily agree with that, but I think that is the end goal for Kim and his staff is to play like a run and gun, just spray from three offense. Which, by the way, watching Alabama against Duke the other night, that kind of offense looked atrocious. Very, very volatile. But I digress. I don't know if the kid can shoot and that's Kim's goal. You got a point guard. You got a traditional big. Go out and get shooters. Fill the roster out with shooters. If that's the goal, you better scout your ass off and recruit your ass off to get guys that fit the mold that you want. And again, I kind of want to harp on the mentality thing because it seems like Kim was very, what's the word? A lot of his gripes with players seemingly had to do with, mental toughness, effort, things of that nature. Like, I really hope a lot of these guys that we're landing are proven mentally tough, battle-tested guys who want to wear black and silver. And that's because that's Friars basketball. It's toughness, it's pride, and I feel like it's what Kim preaches.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think Kim said it perfectly. You got to get guys that want to be here. That's the only way, the only path for us to be successful in the long term. And playing the style of basketball that, like, I think is good, and not being married to a style of basketball. I think that what we've kind of seen with this portal season with Kim is like some of the guys that we've been linked with aren't necessarily 100% like a perfect fit for the quote unquote Kim English offense. I think that taking good players and maybe adapting to the offense a little bit, not saying that you completely scrap it, right? But depending on what's available and what you can work with, and that's why you have a coaching staff with experience. For example, like if RJ Lewis knocks on your door and says, I'll stay in the Big East, I'm not too worried about like getting the most money. I want to, play somewhere that kind of close to geographically where I was last year, and hopefully elevate a team to a big championship. You don't say no because he doesn't necessarily fit, your style. Like he's not a great 3-point shooter, but you move some things around and you figure it out as long as you can afford him. So I think that's important, is not being like stubborn, but you do have to get some guys that can shoot regardless of what kind of offense you're trying to play. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously, a lot of guys left and a lot of guys entering every single day still. So
it feels like they're waiting longer to land some of these recruits, but in reality, someone pointed it out the other day that Friars didn't land their first transfer until I think it was April 5th. So basically like the week of the Final Four. For some reason, it feels like it's a little more methodical, waiting it out, when in reality it's pretty much same timeline.
I will say I agree, and I kind of like disagree in a sense that last year, like in March, right? We were possibly going to make the tournament. Like we needed. I mean, going into the Big East tournament, we were like a couple wins away from going dancing, right? So I think that there's a difference between when your staff is concentrated on the in-game play versus like it's a 12-win season. The season was over. The season was over when you couldn't complete the comeback against St. John's in Madison Square Garden, and then Jabri got hurt. The season was done. There was no coming back from that. There was no path to make the tournament at large or Big East tournament. It was never going to happen. So at that point, you got to turn your attention to, okay, like who might portal, start doing some research, start, tampering, so to speak, right? I think everyone does it. It's not, it's known. Everyone does it. It's a 12-win season. So gear up for next year. And so like what I was expecting, honestly, this year was right when portal open, like day 1 or day 2 was like, all right, we'd get a commitment, because like if you're not tampering in a 12-win season in February and March, like what are you doing? But I think that still like didn't rush it, took our time. And I think that like Hargrove is a perfect example of that. I think he's a perfect fit. And he's not a superstar, but he's a perfect fit. Davis, like, I think that it's a little bit of a lesser fit, but I think you have to take, like, you can't pass up Daquan Davis.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, Hargrove has the higher floor. Daquan Davis was a top 100 kid that Kim recruited early on. You have to imagine Kim has some sort of plan or vision of Daquan Davis being the guy at some point. I would imagine. And I think he does have that potential. Like you saw last year, almost 10 points a game. He played 25 minutes a game as a freshman in the ACC. Now, Florida State wasn't great, but you get the point. Right. Like, he can contribute right away. I think he does have a high ceiling. And it goes back to the RJ Lewis point you made. Like, it might not fit the style of play that you want to run with, but if a guy can hoop, a guy can hoop. And it's just the Daquan Davis feels like he can be an interchangeable type of player, like kind of can adapt to what type of offense you want to run. Also, I didn't want to interrupt earlier, but you said Daquan Davis. Personally, I've been saying Daquan Davis, and I think it rolls off the tongue a little better.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree.
You get Day,
I think,
and then Day. I'm gonna start calling him Day Day. Day Davis.
Day Day. Well, we had a Day that fought, Garway Dual. So, I don't know about that. It might be a little bit of a curse. So, but yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. You like, I think he can do a lot, fit a lot of different systems, and you just have to take a kid like that, especially like just with 3 years of eligibility, I know that it doesn't really mean much when you can portal the next year. But like, I think if the kid is smart and he wants to be successful, I think he's probably looking at like, where can I spend the next 2 years and maximize the next 2 years, and then that final year, that senior year. I mean, if you have a really good 2 years in the Big East, the sky's the limit. You can go literally anywhere you want in the entire country, and probably make over $1 million. Depending on what the systems look like. Then I don't know, things might change, but probably over $1 million. His senior year. So definitely.
What are you hoping for next? Like what? All right, we're gonna put you in Kim English's shoes again. You're Kim English for a day.
Yeah.
What's the next plan of attack? Where are you going? Assuming like there's not anything in the works right now. Where are you going right now? Like what's your next move?
Well, there's yeah. So assuming there's nothing in the works, which there's always going to be something in the works this time of year. Whether it's going to get done is another story. I mean, I would really like Jalen Sellers. I know that there's been a little bit of talk about him committing to Illinois. I heard he was down to PC or Illinois. And then, I did read on Discord that he is going to Illinois, but I don't believe that. It wasn't well sourced. It wasn't for anyone good. So I would really like Jalen Sellers as a backup. The kid from I'll tell you his name right now. In a school, I always forget his name. It is Quamari Peterson. So Quamari Peterson is not a tall guard, but he is out of East Tennessee State. And Quamari led the Southern Conference in steals and 3-point percentage and points per game. So if you are looking at a kid all right, sure, bad conference, but this kid would fit the system so perfectly. He is really, really a big-time deep threat, and he led the conference in steals. So he adds defense. He adds 3-point shooting, and he's a good player all the way around. So that would be my backup to Sellers. I think that there's a spot for maybe one more point guard, a starting point guard. I love Melvin Council. Talked about on the show last time. And then either, a Sellers or a Peterson. And then you got to get a 4. So, the 4 market is a little bit weird, but man, I love Reed Bailey. Reed Bailey would be perfect. I haven't really heard too much on the 4 front, like Colby Duggan, but he's not that good. So yeah, you got to get another, a big time scoring guard, a point guard, and a 4.
Yeah, I think obviously you want to get a temperature check on Vox. You want to know your Vox status. But I agree. I think you got to go. I said earlier, I would like some sort of veteran point guard to take the reins, at least at the start of the season. You don't have to do anything special, but a Melvin Council, like a guy who doesn't seem like he is exceptional and any one facet of the game, but can just be a reliable, experienced guard to kind of just not shield Day, but I don't know, just ease his way into playing for the Friars. I'd like an experienced point guard, and then flood it with shooters. Flood it with shooters because as excited as I am for Hargrove and Daquan Davis, they're not great shooters. And if you want to run that style of offense, flood it. Reed Bailey, like you said, can shoot. Vox, what's your Vox status? Can you shoot? Yes, he can. And then just go get shooters, man.
Yeah, that's good. That was good. Yeah, no, I totally agree, and that is a concern, and you have to think that the next guy that we get more than likely will be a little bit of a shooter because you look at who's on the team right now: Ryan Mila, Jameer Jones, right?
Mhm.
Daquan Davis, and you have Corey Floyd, who's like not Corey Floyd and Davis. I wouldn't be surprised if you're given the right system and the right opportunities, they were okay 3-point shooters. Corey Floyd's not a
Mhm.
bad 3-point shooter by any means. He's actually pretty decent, but he's not a sniper by any means. The guy
No,
that
yeah.
everyone is forgetting is Jabri Abdur-Rahim. Now, the NCAA has, yep, I know that's your guy. That's your guy. So I know you probably
MSG
weren't
Bree.
forgetting it. MSG Bree. Now, with Jabri, the NCAA has 21 days to respond. Now, he reportedly filed on March 19th. Now, the NCAA would be making a significant exception for Jabri because he does not qualify. Like they made an exception, a very small exception. I think one of the kids that I think I forgot where he committed to, but he was in the portal and he played like 11 out of 30 games. So the rule is you can't play like over 30%, but he was like over by 1. And he got the exception because like it was just 1 game. But Jabri played
Mhm.
like over half the games. So, but Jabri also had a very public, like really bad thing happen to him with his uncle.
Mhm.
So, like part of me thinks that if I'm the NCAA, I would do it. But I also see the side of like that's kind of a dangerous precedent to set. Like if you're just kind of like, you know, letting guys get a 5th year for mental health. Like I'm in support of that, but I could understand how some guys may scheme the system a little bit with that.
Mhm. I'm biased as all hell, so I'm not going to push any sort of narrative that it's going to set a bad precedent. Um, I'll be blindly ignorant and say it's the right move, NCAA. Do it. Um, but yeah, Jabri that's the type of guy you need. You need if you can't get Jabri back via waiver, you need to recreate Jabri, and that's not easy to do the way he was heating up towards the end of the year.
Right.
But like I obviously see both sides of the coin. Like he's way higher than the games, maximum games threshold, whatever it is. But at the same time, like you said, super public, tragic event happened. So like, if anyone's got an argument after playing 22 games, it's got to be him. You know what I mean? If anyone's, especially given what was it, his meniscus after the St. John's game.
Torres meniscus, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, listen, if anyone wants Jabri back, it's me. Jabri Abdurrahim from the
Correct.
program. So, listen, NCAA, you're not setting a bad precedent. You're doing the right thing because you're keeping the most rabid fan base in the country happy. So, thank you in advance.
Yeah. Charlie Baker does not want the PCBC on his bumper.
Well said. Well
So
said. Because we're on bumpers if this waiver gets declined.
we are on Charlie Baker's bumper, and what we're going to do is we're going to close the liquor store closest to Charlie Baker's house, so he'll have to drive an extra 10 minutes to get his booze because the guy loves the whiskey. So he needs to put the bottle down and make the right call and give Jabri an extra year, or else we will be on your bumper. So,
Incredibly well said.
Yeah. So I think that these these emergency podcasts will probably roll in as we get more guys. I think that was a very good day. We had a very good day Garrett Crochet extension as well for all that celebrate that. So that was yesterday. Christian Campbell extension as well for all that celebrate that. But we do have to touch on Bryce Hopkins. So Bryce Hopkins did go to did go to St. John's, did not go to Georgetown. Well, happy about not going to Georgetown, even though they said for 3 years that he was going there. Tell me how that made you feel with the move to St. John's.
I mean, obviously you're hurt by it, and I'm on record on this show saying there are 363 schools in the country he can go to, and I would wish him well. Obviously, the one you leave out is Georgetown for obvious reasons. So, naturally, I would wish the kid well. I have no animosity. Obviously, I'm going to crack jokes here and there. His tweet yesterday is what kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not sure if you saw his, I guess, pseudo announcement or farewell tweet.
Yeah, it was garbage. It's absolute garbage.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm sure pretty much anyone listening has seen the tweet, but Bryce said, quote, "I've gone back and forth on whether or not I wanted to put something out because of how some of y'all reacted to the whole situation. But I want to address the Friar fans that actually support my career, or me and my career. Thank you. You guys have made my time at Providence nothing short of special. But at this point in my career, I felt it was best for me to move on. I appreciate your continued support. Stay blessed." Listen, no problem with the second half of that tweet. But to say I was going back and forth on whether or not I wanted to put something out because of how some of y'all reacted to the whole situation. I'm sorry you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, you're in a situation like that, you're going to have to deal with some backlash. And like I said, I wish nothing but well for the kid. I'm still going to make jokes. But you have to expect some sort of backlash, especially having seen firsthand the last 2 years
right
what's happened to Cooley.
Right. There's definitely a right way and a wrong way to do things. And I don't want to sound like a broken record because this is what PC fans said about Cooley, but it wasn't the fact that he left. It was how and where. So, again, going in conference to a rival that we're going to have to compete with and beat and play 2 times per year, possibly 3 in the Big East tournament. It hurts, but it's not that big of a deal. But to think that you don't owe the fan base some sort of explanation is absurd. You more than likely torpedoed an entire season, right? And this is you did that knowing that you play for Providence and the fans are pretty reactive, right? You collected the check, a huge check. You possibly almost ruined Kim English's career or put a pause on it. I think that he's young enough where he could come back if Knapp said, like, hey, let's move on from Kim because of the 12-win season. That's on Bryce Hopkins, like, not playing. And I think that that's probably why it didn't happen. But if some PC fans got their way, Kim would be gone right now. He'd be back in the A10 or another mid-major, and Bryce Hopkins would be the reason, torpedoing the season. We all know he was healthy. I don't want to hear, his knee hurt, whatever. He played 3 games. He looked completely fine in those 3 games. He shut it down at the exact right moment. Basically, after being approached by St. John's last spring, the same thing. Also, remember last year where there was some talk about him entering the portal the very last day? And then we had the hashtag the return and, that whole thing on Twitter. And we were like, all right, Bryce is staying. And we got that final word, from shout out Dom Coletta. But he was like, Bryce is staying. And they agreed on a deal with Bryce. That was awesome. That was a great day in PC history. Well, it really turns out that Bryce held PC over the coals and hamstrung them completely to get a little more money, only to then sit out the entire year, torpedo the season, and then go to St. John's the next year for whatever it is, $2.5 million, and then expects PC fans not to be upset. Like, are you fucking dense? Are you a stupid kid? Like, we're obviously going to be upset. I'm not saying I wish him poorly. I'm not like furious at the kid, but like, dude, we have a legitimate gripe. And it's like, here we go again. Like, some person using PC fans, and then when they screw us, saying it like, oh, they're a problem. Like, his family going on there, acting like fools on Twitter, on Instagram, trolling with the 2 feet in comment, his sister 2 feet in, and then his girlfriend liking it. Get out of here. Kick rocks. Get bent.
Get bent. That is correct. Get bent. Get bent a million times over. But yeah, I hadn't even considered the stipulations it had on Kim's job stability.
Absolutely.
Like you said, if PC fans got their way this year, Kim's on LinkedIn, and it's all because the guy decided to sit out, collect more than you or I will make in the next however many years, and just know that you're going off to greener pastures. We water our grass. We water our grass.
Yep. Had there been not a couple of bailouts, a couple of like wins that we kind of stole, like there was a couple of games that we stole that we really shouldn't have won.
For sure.
And say you finish with 9 wins, say you finish with 10. Kim could be coaching Bryant right now. Like, think about how crazy it is. And it's all because of Bryce. And like, Kim's up. I hope Kim's mad. I hope Kim's upset. I hope Knapp's upset. I hope that incoming players see the reaction that PC fans had after getting fucking screwed and say, like, I'm not going to fuck with these people. Absolutely not. Like, Bryce's uncle last night going on Twitter saying, like, what's your address? I'm going to be in Providence next month. Just, him, Clyde, his whole family. The time was up. It's fine. I hope he goes to St. John's. I hope he does really well. I hope he loses to PC twice. I hope that eventually maybe he can have a positive relationship with PC fans. But no, I'm all set. Thank you for everything, but see you later.
Yeah, I said earlier today, 2025, 2026 starts now, and Bryce Hopkins is not on the roster. So I think I don't know about you, I'm happy with this being the last Bryce soap opera conversation we have on this show. Because it's definitely in the past now. 2025, 2026 starts now.
Yep, for sure. And it's no coincidence that we rattled off 2, commitments right when Bryce kicks rocks. It's like, we're ready. We were ready for this. We were ready to move on. This is a full Kim English team, right? I mean, with the exception of Corey Floyd, but like, it's been so long since Corey Floyd has played for Cooley, and he barely played under Cooley. Like, he's the only holdover at this point. So just full Kim English guys, right? See what he has. If the team's bad, Kim's gone. If the team's good, great. You build off that and then go from there. So, yeah.
I saw someone say the other day, kind of along the lines of like, however you feel about Kim and the job he did last year, like, I don't give a shit. Like, at this point, we're on to next year. And at the end of the day, all any of us want is for the Friars to win. So I don't give a shit. Like, you shouldn't be rooting for the Friars to do bad next season, because that means, one 1 year closer to Kim English getting canned. That's horseshit. Like the guys that are here. Root for them. You need positivity because it's not like there's games being won and lost for the next 6-7 months.
For sure. One last thing I just want to bring up is I had a tweet back when they played Oklahoma in the Bahamas about Bryce's body language on the bench that I tweeted, and then like a few people saw it. A lot of people saw it, and then I deleted it because I wanted to be fair to him. Like I didn't want to like say something that I didn't 100% like know because I wasn't there. Like I was watching on TV, and it was what I felt, what I saw on TV. But you don't see the whole picture on TV. But it was basically a tweet about his like poor body language and not cheering for his teammates and sitting out when I felt like he was healthy at that time. There was a lot of rumors about him potentially playing. That tweet was a huge topic of conversation in the Discord, and the Trilly Discord guys, the PC Discord guys, were shitting all over it. And then anytime body language got brought up in the Discord later on, they were like, "Oh, who are you, Leb?" You know what? Bryce Hopkins turned out to be a bad guy. So that tweet, I don't regret that at all. I did for a little while, but you know what? I stand by that. And I wish I could put it back up because his body language was off from December to, like February. I feel like maybe it picked up a little bit because maybe I feel like he knew he was leaving. But yeah, I don't regret that at all. I did for a little while, but I don't. So, if any of you Trilly Discord guys are listening, then get bent as well.
You're on a get bent tour right now. Little emergency.
Yeah, I'm hot.
The blood pressure's getting up there.
It is. It definitely is. Don't screw over PC. Don't do it. Especially on fucking Ween Wednesday.
True. Happy Ween Wednesday.
Yep. All right. No more crash outs. I'm good. Do we have anything else you want to cover or talk about?
Nothing right now. Nothing I can do. We'll wait till the next emergency drop. Nothing too pressing, so we can get on out of here.
Let's go get Sellers. Let's go get maybe a power forward, another point guard. Need another point guard, and everybody have a good weekend. Stay safe, and go Friars.
Go Friars. Shout out Eddie. He's doing the 999 challenge.
Oh yeah. Good luck to Patriot Eduardo. 999 challenge. That's big time.
For sure. That's all I got.
All right. Peace. Oops.